Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, especially about accessibility and dynamic data. If this is your first time in the stream, please let me know in the comments. You can say your name and where you are speaking from, and yeah, we can go from there. Today's video is going to be fun. We're just going to be looking at Elementor version 3.30, the beta version, which was released, I believe, yesterday or the day before. We'll just see what are the new features that are out, and we'll explore. After that, we'll go ahead and check out the Ali plugin. So that is Ali by Elementor. If we finish from there and we have enough time, then I'll just discuss about other like tools that work, like what they call complex widgets for web design, which include things like your tabs, your accordion, and other widgets like that. So yeah, I'm just going to make sure it is live and we can continue from there. So just pull up my phone and I believe it is live. Okay, yeah. So as we continue, I'll switch over my screen now to talk about Elementor. Just let me know in the comments. Once you drop in, just put it in the chat, your name and where you are calling from. And yeah, we just discuss generally about Elementor. How many of you are enjoying the new features that are coming out with Elementor, the atomic elements as it's called? Are you finding it good? Is it buggy? Is it bad? How do you feel it? I know some people have been saying things like, oh, they don't like the whole change, that they prefer everything to still remain the way it used to be. They're not really happy with having to switch their mindsets to all of these global classes and things like that. But I believe this new direction that they're going in is going to be good. So that is my personal opinion, but I don't know about your opinion. But I think that the new version with the atomic elements is going to be better, and some things need to be fine-tuned. If you have anything that you feel needs to be fine-tuned, just let them know on GitHub. Let me drop a link to the GitHub repo so you can drop them a comment and say, this is my feature request, or this is the thing that I feel Elementor should do better, and so on. So let me drop that in the chat. So yeah, just head over to that link, which is in the chat. That is github.com/elementor/elementor again /issues, and you'll be able to get to the Elementor issues, which will take you to the GitHub request. So let me go ahead and show it to you on screen. Let's switch over. So yeah, that is the beta version 3.30 is out. And we can go ahead and see the discussions, the announcement. So some of the features that were added is things that have to do with the cloud. That is more for the pro version. You have access to template cloud. Then you also have like your editor version 4 alpha, which has more features now. So we'll see what's new in editor version 4. We have that you can collaborate with role-based class permissions. We'll check that out. Then we also have other things. The classes, now the output of the classes is as you impute them. So before, the output was different, but now what you impute into your class manager is what gets outputted on the front end. So things are getting better. Let me switch over. Then we have other features like context-aware panel. So before, the panels were always changing, that they were always reverting back to the initial states. But now, wherever you stop and you like click away and click back, it continues from where you stopped. We'll be checking out all of these things soon. Then the other thing is that we now have smart units. That is reminding me of, oh, I forgot to switch my screen. Yeah. So yeah, so the things we have is that we have also the indicators for what styling you're applying, and so on. So yeah, let's go ahead and start checking out all of these things one after the other. Hey Toby, thanks for joining in. We'll just be checking out some of the new features that have come out with Elementor. So one of the features is that finally the classes are better. So let's see what I mean. If I go over and create a new section, that is, you have your atomic elements, which now have 8 elements. Previously, in the first release, there were only 7. Now there are 8 elements, which is the YouTube element is the 8th element. We'll check it out. But first, we'll start with, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, yeah. So atomic elements. So we have flexbox, the div block, the heading, the image, paragraph, SVG, button, and the YouTube element. So let's now go ahead and drop in a flexbox. And let me give it a class name. So I'll give it a class name like David dash section. Let's go ahead and press enter, and then I'll give it a style. Let's just say maybe it has a background color. So let's go to background, and I'll give it a background color. Hello, thanks for joining in. That's Kim. Yeah, the basically containers. Abhishek, thanks for joining in. Containers are basically the same thing as div block. So they just made them. I know in the bricks they have the sections, the container, the block element, and the div element. But in Elementor, they've just chosen 2. So they've chosen flexbox and the block element. Then you can mix and match all of those to form however you want to do it. But yeah, let's just go ahead and see how the class names are first. That's the first one we check out, which is something that people complained about in the initial release. So let's go ahead and let me give it a background color of something green. Okay. And then I'll drop in anything. Let me drop in a heading widget and give that. I'm styling on the local class for the heading. Let's go to the typography, and I'll give it a text color of white. The one thing that I really like with some other builders is the ability to search, because I don't like going to accordions and clicking, trying to find what element I want to do. I just like there should be a search at the top. I simply search for, if I want display, I just search for display. If I want position, I search for position. But I hope maybe sometime in the future they will add those, because having to click through all of these elements is a bit tedious. But yeah, that's it. Let's go publish, and we'll preview it on the front end. And you can see we have our title and the color. If we inspect it, you see how clean the element is. So we have the div and we have the h2. The div, the class name I did was David-section, and as you can see, it has that class name David-section. Previously, it would give you a G-1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weird numbers, but at least now it's better. So, exactly. If that is exactly what I want, a search bar will have made everything very good. But yeah, we'll wait and see how everything turns out in the end. Let me just zoom out my other screen a little bit. You're not seeing the screen, but it's the one I'm using to look at the chart so I can see. Okay, so that's the first thing, that now the classes are coming out the way we want it. The other thing is that the classes, if I go over to the class that I styled, if you see this class, I styled the color on the background. If I now go over to maybe like the local and I check, you see this gray style, which means that there is a style that has been applied, is inheriting the style from somewhere else. That's what it's trying to tell you. If you now click on it, it gives you more details. So if I click on it, it tells you exactly where the style is coming from. the green color means that it's coming from a global class, and then it tells you the name of the class. That is David-section. So it's giving you enough information. Then, and it even tells you exactly what the color was. So if I go ahead and now style this one, I give it maybe like a brown color. Now, because the local class always overrides the local class, the local class always overrides the global class. That's why the color changed. If I now go back to my global class, David-section, you see it has this orange looking color, which means that although we are applying a style on the element, it is being, there's a conflict basically. That's what it's trying to tell you, that it's a conflict with a style from somewhere else. If you now click it, it tells you exactly which one has priority, which is the local class has priority. If I add another class, let's say I add another class called Josh, and I try to style it again. So this time, because I've not added any style yet, it will be gray. That means it's just inheriting styles. If I try to change the color, then it turns to this orange color, telling me that, okay, I know you've applied a style, but your style cannot like be shown on the screen because it is in conflict. If I click on the icon now, it tells me which ones are the ones that are making it to override. So first is overriding with the local class, then the Josh. Oh yeah, no, but I guess it's because I'm using the British English. Maybe that's why it changed. I didn't even notice that. Oh yeah, I didn't notice that it was actually color with a UR. Oh, that's interesting. So maybe somebody translated it. Yeah, okay. So that's it for the colors. Then what else? The other thing that they added was, hey Jimmy, thanks for joining in. Let's see some of the features that we added. Hopefully we'll get to convince Jimmy to become an Elementor user. Who knows? One day we can convince him, but for now I don't know if that will work. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So you have the enhanced control and accelerated workflow. Then it says the user-defined class names. Like I said, I put the class name button primary. In my case, I put it as David, and it showed up in the element. So that's where we are going. Then we keep on going. Let's see the other features that were there. Okay, like I showed already, the indicators to tell you which class is already being overwritten. Then, yes, the context-aware panel. Let's go back. And like I showed previously in my last video, I think I showed it, that the moment you like click away, so let's say I click on the heading, and I click back, everything will have returned back to the general tab and show me the general tab. But now, if I click away and click back, it stops at exactly what I clicked. So I was in the general tab, it sticks to the general tab. If I click to the style tab and I click, I believe, if I click the, let's see, background, if I go to the heading and I go back to Flexbox, it's okay, it doesn't do that. So it tells me the tab I'm on, it tells me the class name I was styling last, but I think it still just goes back to the beginning, which is layout. Let's see if I try to click on the next one, go to the heading and go back. Yes, so it remains on the class name that I clicked last. It also like remains on the tab I clicked last, but it doesn't really like scroll to the last point that I was. It saves the state, but not exactly where it was the scroll state. It saves the other parts of the states basically. So let's say if I close all of the tabs now, so I close the background and I close the layout, but I leave the size open. Okay. Then I click to the heading and I click back. So yes, the size will still remain open, but sometimes it may not be open. So let's say the effects. That will be something that you can easily see. So now I've scrolled down. The scroll wheel is at the bottom, showing the effects. And I have chosen Josh. So let's click away to the hero, and then let's click back and see what happens. So yeah, that is the conclusion. It saves the tab state, it saves the class state, and then it saves the tabs that were open or the accordions that were open, but it doesn't really save the scroll state. I guess that's a hard thing to save, the state of the scroll bar. But yeah, those are the things. Then we keep going. Let's see. The next thing is the smart units. This is actually quite cool. The smart units. I believe Elementor are taking some inspiration from page builders like GreenShift and maybe Buildarius to a little extent, just a little bit. GreenShift and Buildarius, because they do something similar to the way GreenShift, especially GreenShift, the way GreenShift works is similar to how Elementor's units work. So let's see what I mean. Let me switch back, and we'll come over to like the size. And one of the biggest thing that I've always complained about was the custom unit that was missing in the initial version, and I like using custom units a lot. But now you can see if I click on the icons, you can see all of the icons come out as a popover, and you can choose. There's now the pencil icon, and there's the other units. So I can click on the pencil icon. If you are more of a you're more of a mouse user who likes to use the mouse, so you can click on the icon, and then it takes you to the settings. And this is exactly how GreenShift likes to do their popover. Let me see if I can pull up GreenShift. So I'll just quickly. Is my system not? Why is this not working? Shift. Interesting. Okay, let me come to a different page. I think whenever I'm on OBS, some of my keyboard shortcuts don't no longer work. Why is it not working? Control K. Yeah, that is weird. I use some keyboard shortcuts using Command UI, but for some reason, now that I turned on my OBS to record, my keyboard shortcuts have stopped working. Okay, so that means I have to do it manually then. That's a long. I'm so used to using Command UI. Okay, so I'll go to Add Plugin. So I have to go the long route, and I'll search for Green. Oh yeah, that's why. It was my keyboard was turned off for some weird reason. Okay, now I can install it. GreenShift. I was wondering how everything just stopped working. I didn't realize that I turned off my keyboard accidentally. Okay, now I've installed GreenShift. So let's go to Pages. And add page. Yeah. Before we continue, let me just say shout out to Lex. He's the one who set up this environment for me to be able to test Elementor Pro and the Ally plugin. So let's say shout out to Lex. You can make sure to subscribe to his channel. Okay, so this is GreenShift test. And let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let me search for heading element or H2. Okay, H2. And you'll notice something similar. If I go to their font and I click on their var, where's the var? Let's just search for var. You see that they tend to add the variable in a popover, unlike Bricks and other page builders that tend to open their custom units in the same window. Elementor and GreenShift, they open the custom unit in a popover. So you can now write var, let's say dd text m or 2xl. If that works. Interesting. Oh, why didn't it work? No idea. But oh yeah, it should work, but I don't know why. Anyway, so the same thing here. They have that custom unit which opens in a popover, and I can now search for my unit. So if I say var dd edge space, it adds the space for me. Or if I say var dd wrapper, these are all classes that I created in my custom style sheet. I'll show it to you in a minute. And I get my wrapper width. Let me go ahead and show you. So WP codebox. I used Core Framework to generate it. Then I just copied the CSS because I don't really need to have Core Framework installed on the website since it doesn't have a direct integration for now. So I just copied the CSS from Core Framework into my code snippets plugin, and that's it. This is where all the CSS are stored, and they are all working when I use them directly in the builder. So that is something nice. So I can always easily add them. The only limitation for now is that it doesn't work with the colors. So our custom unit does not work with colors. They only work with like size units, so your text size, your border radius, your border width, and all of those kind of size-based units. They don't work with color-based units. So that's something you have to keep in mind. But yeah, now let's really take a look at the smart units, because right now I'm just clicking on the units before I can choose the actual unit. But what they mean by smart unit is, let's go back to Pixel. The moment I write, let's say 10, and then I type R, it gives me 10 rem. So it is basically doing the automatic unit, so I don't have to come and click the unit. If I'm a keyboard user, this saves me a lot of time. So I can just simply type maybe 12, and if I want to write VW, so I just write VW, and it automatically changes to VW for me. If I want to use custom units, all you have to do is, when the space is blank, just press the C key, C. It will automatically open the custom units for you, and then you can start typing in your custom unit. So those are the things you just need to know, that it's now more keyboard friendly. Although this popover thing, it tends to throw me off a little bit, but it works. It is also, it manages the focus well, unlike when I'm using something like green shift. Unfortunately, I love green shift, but unfortunately green shift does not manage focus well. See what I mean? Let's say I'm on the units, let's clear it out, and then I type, no, let's go back to something like Pixel. Yeah, and I type, let's say VAR. It will now take me to the var, that is custom unit, but it will lose focus. I have to now literally come with my keyboard or my mouse and click again. Then it will open the popover for me to now start typing the actual var dd heading with something like that. So I have to do double work just to get it to work. It's not working here because I didn't install Core Framework. If I had installed the Core Framework plugin, then my custom CSS will have been working in the builder. They're not working now. They only work on the front end when you're using Gutenberg. You know how Gutenberg works? So yeah. But whereas with this one, if I press, let me clear it out. Let's go to another element, let's say the height, and I start typing C, it will pop over directly into the unit. Then I can just continue typing there. And then I press escape. And I've gotten that element thing added. And then I can save it. And it should work. Let's just leave this. And what over it did I, okay, let's just write something normal. So let's say something like 15 rem, and let's publish it. See, everything, so we can add anything into the custom units. Everything works perfectly. So that is for the smart units, that you can, the moment you type any letter, so if you type 12 and then you type V, it will open the VW. You can change it to VH as well. If you type P, it takes you to pixels and all of that. So it's similar to GrainShift or Buildarius. Unlike breaks, in the case of breaks doesn't give you that smart unit changing things. It just allows you to type in the unit yourself. Breaks is just a more manual input type of system. So yeah, that's it for the custom units and smart units. Then let's look at the other one. The other one that we have now is the videos, YouTube videos. So that's the last element that was added. Let's test it out. So let's go ahead and close this. And here is something I created. This is the video. Let me delete it and add it again. So we have the way I like to set it up. I tend to just set it like this. Flex. I already have a class name of section. I've styled it the way I want. Then I have an inner block with the class of wrapper. I've styled it the way I want, and so on. So those are good. Then the next thing I'll do is to add the video widget or element. So let's go to the plus icon and let me search for video if I want to search, or the YouTube is already there. So let's just click on the YouTube. And we have our YouTube element. Let me go ahead and drop in my YouTube video URL. I think it's this one, ID. Then I come back to this element. HTTPS. I'm too lazy to go and check for it. I'll just search youtu.be/the ID and get my video. If I publish it and preview it on the front end, we can go ahead and see how the video was rendered. Let me go ahead and inspect it. Right click, inspect, and we get our element. That's this element. And that's our video basically. So we have the video element here. Interesting. So that's how YouTube works. YouTube doesn't actually have a video, just has some. But yeah, this is basically embedding YouTube video. So you shouldn't expect it to have a accessible HTML because it is directly from YouTube. So we have the YouTube video element. Then you have I think there should be lots of buttons, several places, because YouTube does that. Yeah, YouTube has an A tag somewhere. Then they have a button, but this is not. You can't. No matter what you see here is mostly from YouTube itself. So, yeah. But yeah, we get our video, and we can easily play it on the front end, and so on. Yeah. Then the things we have that we can set the start time and the end time. Unfortunately, I think they will adjust this maybe in the next version. They say start time, but they don't tell us start time in what format. There's no placeholder. There's no description. There should be start time and then maybe in brackets, or they'll say in seconds or in milliseconds or something, so that we know exactly how the start time works. Because right now we don't know what units, what format, how are we supposed to put the start time. It's not really described here. So ideally they should put maybe in brackets or some way to say that this is the unit. Oh yeah. Oh, that's true. I just noticed a comment from Jimmy. In the comment section now, there are lots of icons that show up for each user. I see number 1, a crown, 3 crown, X. I have no idea what those are. I have no idea how these crowns came up, but well. So I can't tell anybody how it works. I can't show it on screen. Or can I? Yeah, I can. Let's pull it up on screen and see. So everybody can see. So basically, we get some crowns now on each of the each name. I guess YouTube is trying to get interactions and make people to see how interactive each person is on YouTube. I think I'll have to research it. But yeah, so as we were saying about the YouTube, you can see that they added the URL, which is great, but there is no unit for the start time. But from comments that I've seen previously, I think the units is in seconds, I believe. So if I say something like 500, that's going to start at what? 500 divided by 60 is what? I can't remember now. Let's go ahead and check it out. Oh no, let's use a number that is normal, like 600. So that's like let's publish it, and then we'll go ahead and check it on the front end. And we get let's play it now. You see where it starts from. So it starts from the 10-minute mark because I put 600. 600 equals to 600 seconds. If you divide 600 by 60, it will give you 10. So that's 10 minutes, and so on. So the feedback is that Elementor should tell us what units we are supposed to put it in. It is in seconds, but they should tell us. You can also choose the end time. Then you can do all the other useful things that you normally do. Autoplay, if you want it autoplaying. So let's put autoplay now and put mute and say loop, and let's just see how it works. If you want to remove the player controls, you can remove it. For accessibility reasons, you should have some kind of control to pause the element. But yeah, ignore my face at the side. Then you can add captions from YouTube. You can put the privacy mode, and you can choose to show related videos. This option, related videos, is from YouTube. What happens is at the end of your video, YouTube generally, if you choose to deactivate that option, YouTube will just show people random videos. But if you activate it, then YouTube will only show videos from your own channel at the end of the video. So that is why you choose this related videos. Okay, so oh yeah, I don't want to. How many people are using the Apple iOS and all of the new liquid glass or whatever it's called? So let's publish this, and let's go ahead and see how it looks like on the front end. So right now it will be auto-playing, and because I allowed the controls, let's say I go ahead and hide the controls. Let's save it. Let's look at it on the front end. So now on the front end, it will play the video, but you have no visible controls. It can still pause on click, but there are no visible controls basically. And you can get your captions, you can get every other thing. Everything still remains the same. But yeah, that is it for the last element, for the video element. So I think those are the main things that are there for now in this version. Or did I miss any other thing? Let me know in the comments. Custom units, yes, there is ID support, and you can see that by going to the, if you go to the, let's say a container, and you go to the general tab, you'll be able to see where you can change the HTML tag first to section, then you can add a link if you want. I can't add a link because there is already a link in this book call, and then there is an ID, so you can put an ID of, let's say, something like hero. If I publish it and preview it on the front end, let's go back to my section. You'd see that it has an ID now, so it's a section, and it has an ID equal to hero. So that was added. The one thing that I would like is for them to also add CSS class, so that we can add classes that we don't need to style. We just want to use those classes for maybe some kind of editing purposes. But I guess they will add those CSS class when they also introduce dynamic attributes. I think that's where they will add them both at the same time, I believe. But for now, if you want to add classes, you go to your style tab and you can add your classes here. So now that the classes are reflecting the same class that we put in the backend is reflected on the front end, now we can use our frameworks. So if you have a framework like Core Framework, you can just directly put the class name from Core Framework. Let's see if I know any class name here. Let's see the BG color. I think that's what I call it. Then DDBG color primary. Yeah, so you see, I can just add class names that I already styled in my style sheet or my CSS framework, and I just put the class name there directly in the classes, and it will apply on the back end. And if I go to the front end, let's go to the front end, you see the style was applied correctly. So that is how we can do it now. Let me go ahead and delete it. So I'll remove, and I will remove. And yeah, those are the main features. So the other feature we're going to test out now is that they said these classes, this global class manager, it should only be accessible by the administrator. People who are like editors or below, they shouldn't be able to access the class manager. So let's go ahead and test it out. So I'll go over to, I believe we have admin and site enhancements here. So let me search for enhancements. And I'll go over to utilities, view admin as role. Let's say that. Save it. And now let's come back to our editor first. Let me refresh the page. So now I have this view as. So let's say I want to view it as an author. So I'll change to author. So now I'm viewing the website as an author. Let's go back and refresh. Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, I agree. Elementor is getting better. So, oh, interesting. As an author, I don't have access to the editor. Let me go back, switch it back to administrator. Did I prevent pages from being accessed by editors? Let's see, role manager, the editor. No, they should have access to the pages, I think. I don't know why. If I switch back to an editor. Oh yeah, okay, editors have access to the pages. Okay, so I think I was on the wrong role. I think I switched to author instead of editor. So I can go to pages. And let's go back to that page. I believe it was the home page. And let's see if we can edit the global classes. So let's go back to the hero section. And you see that option to edit global classes is gone. So only the administrator can like edit, delete global classes. An editor can only use those global classes. So I think if I choose DDBG color primary, the class is applied. I can remove it from the elements, but I cannot, with your current role, you can use existing classes, but can't modify them. So you can't delete existing classes. Let's see, can I create a new class? Hero-2. Okay, so yeah, so only, that is the summary now. Only administrators can create or modify classes. The editors can only use those existing classes. They cannot create new classes, and they cannot modify those classes. So they cannot delete it. They cannot change it, I believe. Let's see if we can change the styling on the classes. I'll just test it out. So let's go back to the classes and say this hero class. Let me delete all of these. Let me see if I can edit the classes. Okay, so editors can not do anything with the classes. They can just only apply them. So I guess they are Elementor are listening to the users. But what do you think? Do you think an editor should have the ability to edit a class or not? So what do you think? Or should there be like a more refined role manager, like maybe a way to limit it that the editors can only maybe change a certain specific classes, they cannot change all classes or something like that. I don't know. But what do you think? At the moment, an administrator has full access. They can create new classes. They can edit existing classes. They can delete classes. But the lower ranked people, so the editors and lower, all they can do is view those classes and use them. So they can only use them. They cannot create a new one. So yeah, that's it for the Elementor classes. I will hopefully do a more refined video shortly, maybe in a day or two, or probably on a Monday, where I just show all of the features that were added to our classes and to Elementor v4 currently. The things that I would like them to add are, but that's for future goals, is that dynamic attributes. That is what we need the most, because when you're doing any kind of accessibility improvement, you want to be able to add dynamic attributes like area selected, area labeled by, or things like role equal to button, or anything like that. You need to be able to have access to those attributes, and they should be dynamic. It should not be something that is static. They should be dynamic attributes. So that's something in the future. But at least for now, things are moving up. They're moving nicely. Okay, let me see. Okay, only admins can add HTML within the text for highlight text. Okay, so they would. Okay, so yeah, what do you all think about this whole the global classes, the management of the global classes, and how it works currently? Yeah, global classes. That is, the Elementor are moving. They're getting better and better every day. So I'm happy for them. Hopefully, things will always just keep getting better as things go on. So yeah, that is it for the Elementor version. I think one thing I will show is how best to create your section and container for now, until Elementor brings out a new widget or a new element called the parent element. For now, you have to create your own box layout yourself. So let's see how we can create that box layout. So let me switch back. So if you want to create a box layout, you know, right now with the current version of Elementor, the editor v3, what you just do is click on the plus icon, choose what you want, flexbox, and then choose, do you want it to be a column or a row? If I choose something like the column, immediately it creates a container which has the content width set to boxed. But right now, with the new editor v4, we no longer have this boxed content layout. So how will we create it? First, we start with either the flexbox or the div block, whichever one you want. So you click on that and drop it in. So that will be called flexbox. Then next, you'd head over to your classes and you give it a class name. So a class name that will be used whenever you want to have a parent section. So in this case, I'll call it parent. Oh, I'm on the wrong role. I need to switch back to administrator. So let's first publish. Then I'll switch to administrator. I have not, to be honest, I haven't even used Tailwind CSS that much, so I can't tell you how best it works. I know, yes, Bricks works well with Tailwind. I know, what was the other one? Quickly used to work well with Tailwind. So the link you followed has expired. Okay, let's see. Let me refresh the page. Okay, so I'm back as an administrator. Close this, and let's just refresh the page. So yeah, so I had my flexbox and my div block I'm supposed to add in there. So that's how you do it with the version 4 for now. So you add a flexbox, and then within the flexbox you add either another flexbox or a div block. Then on your parent flexbox, you simply give it a class name. So I'll change the class name to something like parent, so that anytime I have a parent element, I'll add this class name of parent. So parent. Then on the div block, I'll give it a class name of child. So on the parent, what you do is do the layout. Hello Ahmed, thanks for joining in. So on the parent, you give it flexbox. Then you can say direction should be column. You can change that later because I'm just trying to recreate this version of the flexbox and then a single container. So you can say column, the flexbox, then that's on the parent. So the parent, I gave it a class name of parent, set it to display flex direction, column, then the width and the max width will just be 100%. So I'll say the size, the width, say 100, and then you type the percentage sign. It automatically change the units to percent. The max width, same thing, 100%, and we get that. Then you go over to your div block, and for this div block, you do the same thing. So layout, change it to flexbox, then the width, so under size, this time you say the width should be 100% as well, but then the max width, that's the max width over here, you now give it your size. So I'll say something like 1100 pixels. Then finally you go to your margins, so that's under size. Let me close the layout. Under size, under spacing, the margins left and right, just type A for auto, A for auto, and it should center the inner container inside of the parent container. So this gives you back how the Elementor editor normally works. So let's see if it works. So I'll go ahead and drop in something like a heading widget, and let's give it a background for the main container. Oh yeah, it seems there's a bug. I clicked on local and it just generated 3 local. I'm not sure why that happened. 3 local classes. Has anybody noticed this before? I think there's a bug that sometimes the classes just create this buggy class. But yeah, let's continue. Background. Let me just give it a background color. And let's see how it is applied. So publish. Let me see if I made any mistake. Yep, you can see 1100 pixels. If I inspect it, you see that that is the size. If you look at the top, you see 1100x 67.79. So that is the width is now 1100 pixels. So that's how you create basically the same way you had it with Elementor. Then you can now decide to add some padding and other things like that. So you can add padding to your parent flexbox. That's how Elementor does it. I don't do it that way in my own case, but you can now come to your parent's flexbox and go over to the spacing and add some left and right padding. So I'll say the right padding should be, I think it's 10 pixels they normally use, and the left padding 10 pixels. Let's unlink it, and then I can get rid of the top and the bottom padding. And that is it. We're back to how Elementor normally sets up their parent section. So the parent section is usually like that, and then the child is now having that 1100 pixel border or the width. And yeah, so that is just what I wanted to show you. for Elementor. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments so that I know that we've covered it off the topic before I head over and test out the Ally plugin. So the Ally by Elementor, that's the next thing we'll be testing out. We are done with Elementor, unless someone has a question. So yeah. So one thing that Elementor has been doing is that recently, Elementor now are fully going into this accessibility. They're trying to become the leading standard of accessibility when it comes to like WordPress space. You can see they are pushing lots of articles, which I will quickly pull up. You see they have lots of articles related to accessibility. So Elementor are doing a good job, I think. But we'll be testing out their accessibility plugin to see how well it works. So yeah, let's see. Let me switch over. First, let me get out the articles if I can find it. Okay, yeah, I can switch it over now. So yeah, on the Elementor website for Ally plugin, right now they are having a sale of, I think it's 75% off for their Ally plugin. But yeah, let's see. So if you go all the way down to the bottom, before the FAQs, you can see some of the articles that they've written. First one is the what is WCAG, avoid legal pitfalls. There is the does your site comply, why make it accessible, what is web accessibility, and so many other articles. They've been writing lots of articles related to accessibility, which goes to show that they genuinely care about accessibility. But we'll be testing out their current product to see what they're doing well and what they can improve, basically. So let's go back. Let me switch over to the Ally. Let me close all of these other places. Okay. So their plugin is on the WordPress repository. So if I go over under to plugins, installed plugins, you see I have it installed, called Ally Web Accessibility and Usability. That is their plugin. So once you've had it installed, you can now go over to the widget called Ally or Ally, and then it gives you some options for design. You can choose what type of icon you want. If you want to add a custom icon, you can choose to add a custom icon. You can change the color. So if you want it to be a certain, maybe a dark color, anything you want, you can choose it here. You can choose the styling. You can choose to allow it to show on desktop or show on mobile. I hid it on desktop and mobile for a reason, and I will tell you later. But for now, you can choose to show them on desktop and mobile. So when I save changes now, if I go to the front end, you see this icon now pops up that when you click on it, it shows you some information, and they fixed one of the problems that I mentioned previously, that their accessibility toolbar was not like mobile responsive. Now, once the screen is too big, it gives you that scroll bar that you can scroll through and see all of the options. So they've made one improvement. So let's close it. The other thing you can do is you can add some other things like capabilities. So all of those options I showed on the front end, you can choose to see it. Yeah, like Jimmy just said, I wish they had done more, and we'll see how it shows even in this widget. We'll see some of the good things that they did and some of the not so good things that they did with the widget. We'll get to see it in a few minutes. So you can see from the widget, you can choose to show different options like bigger text, bigger line height, text align, readable font, page structure. Then you can also have screen reader. I'm not sure. We'll discuss all of these things soon, but you let me know in the comments. First, just let me know in the comments if you genuinely, have you had anybody like like your friends, somebody who genuinely actively uses any of those, like those icons that you see on websites? Have you ever like had to click on that icon and choose any of those options? Because I'm just genuinely curious. I've not really seen, I've always seen web designers, we are always putting all of these features, all of these that we call cool features. But how many times do people really click those buttons? And how many times do they leave it on? Sometimes you might have false positives, because a lot of people times we go to websites to test out those features, not necessarily because we want to use the features, but just because we want to test it out to see that it's working. So you might check your analytics, and the analytics is telling you that, oh yes, you get 5 people using it, but in reality those 5 people just only use it for 1 day to do testing. After that 1 day of testing, they never touched it again. So you can check the analytics to see how long did they keep it open, how many times did they like visit the site, and so on, and with that option open. I'm like, I just want to know, because I keep seeing a lot of my friends, they keep putting this icon, that small icon on the bottom of their screen to show that they're accessible, but they themselves don't use it. Their clients love to see it, but they don't actually use it. So I'm now wondering, if I'm not using it, what's the purpose of it being there? It should have a purpose. You should say, okay, statistically, 50% of people who visit my site, they use that feature or something like that. Then you can justify putting the feature in. But if it's a feature, I don't know. I'm just rambling right now. But let's just continue to see how it is, to see what is working and what is not working currently, and what can be fixed, basically. So yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm listening to your question, Jimmy, while we continue. So we have all of these features: bigger text, bigger line height, text align. We will test all of these things on the front end: outline focus, grayscale, contrast, and so on. The other cool feature that they added is that now you also have accessibility statements. So that is one useful thing that lots of websites expect to have. People expect you to have an accessibility statement to tell them, what have you done so far? What are you planning to do? What are the limitations that they can expect from your website, so that they don't have to stress themselves. Let's say, for example, you know that your form plugin is not accessible. So you can write it in your accessibility statement that, oh, sorry, my form plugin is not working. I am currently looking for ways to fix it. So that the person, that is what some people who use screen readers, that is the first place they go to. They go to your accessibility statement to see what are the work you've done so far, what are the things that you still have outstanding that you're trying to fix, so that they don't have to now be bothered trying to solve it. If they already know that the problem is existing and you're working towards solving it, they can rest assured. But if you are hiding all of your problems, you're not telling anybody, then you now make them go through hours of like going through your website, and they are stuck with that feature, not knowing that it was not working out well. It's not supposed to work out well for them. You see, you're creating problems. So that's one thing on your accessibility statement, is saying, hey, I care about accessibility. This is what I've done so far to improve accessibility on my website. These are the things that I'm working towards. These are the limitations that I've found so far. And hey, here's my contact. If you are stuck, please reach out to me using this email address. Don't put a contact form, but an actual email address that the user can now access, and send you an email to say, oh, sorry, my website is, I tried to maybe buy a certain product on your website, but it wasn't working. Give them a way to contact you, the best possible way to contact you, basically. So yeah, that's it about the accessibility statement. Let me switch. Okay. So this question about cards, it was actually asked recently in one of the meetups. So I will link to it if I can find it. Let me just quickly search on YouTube. It's called accessible card, WP. Let's see if I can find it. Then I'll just link to it directly. Let me make sure. Okay. So let me switch over. So basically it was asked in this this is not my website, but yeah, on this channel. You can go ahead and check it out later. So, but basically, if you have a card, the thing that should be linked is the useful name. So usually it is the name that is the name of the heading basically that is linked. So yeah, like you're saying about Core Framework, yeah, that's what Core Framework does. So you put the link on the heading, then on that heading you would now use that link card. So it will now add a focus to the entire card, because we're trying to like balance out the POUR so that it's perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So for a screen reader, the person needs to hear the link. So that's why you put what is the most useful text. That's what you link to. So you link the most useful text, which is usually the post title of the card, to put that as the link. Then, but for visual users, they need to know what exactly they're clicking on. Since the whole card is clickable, you put a focus outline on the entire card. Then maybe you can put an underline on the link itself, focus outline on the entire card, so that they know that, okay, the entire card is clickable, but the name that they're going to hear is the name of the actual link itself. Yeah, so that is basically what it is. Let me see if I can find the W3C I think they call it W3C pattern. Okay, so patterns. No, not W3C, not the patterns. I want to check their design system. Okay. And I believe they had something that has to do with cards. They're under components, cards, and that's exactly what they did here. This is a good resource to see how some people approach it. So the way they approach it is, since if it's just one block card, you can see the HTML. I think this is the HTML. You see how the HTML is, that they put the heading H3, then they put an A tag inside of the heading. So the path to your page is inside of the heading, but then they now use this data attribute called data component equal to card to make it the entire card clickable. So that's what they're using. They're using these data components to make the entire card clickable. But if you use the tab key, let's see if I can focus. You see that the tab key focuses on, oh no, this is the wrong one. So this is the one with the button only. Block link cards there. So you see, it will focus on the W3C. This is where the actual link is on that W3C title, because the person is using the tab key. If the person is using a mouse, then you use that outline to outline the entire card. So they did it in multiple ways. So they are satisfying multiple things at the same time. First, if you hover over the card, okay, they didn't show it here, but in one of the other examples, if you hover over the card, the entire card will have like an outline to tell you that, okay, this card is clickable. Then the actual link is on the title itself, because that is the most important text that people should understand. Then finally, if you use the tab key to tab through, then the tab key will now focus on what the real link is, which is the W3C something something and so on. So that's where the highlight is. So the way I like to do it in my own work is that even when you're using the tab key, so what I will do is I'll put an underline or something like this border, this box shadow on the text, but then I'll still put a border around the card, so the person knows that, okay, the card is being focused, and the link itself, that is the real link in the card, is the W3C element. So that's what I like to do. So yeah, that's it. Okay, so now that we have seen all of these, so these are the things that Elementor are planning to do. They are in 3 phases. The first phase is this overlay widget that they have created. The second phase is that they're going to show you something that looks like Wave type of tool that will help you to like test for accessibility issues. Then the third one is that they're going to now give you the like resources to be able to fix those issues. So this is their first stage. The first stage will give you this overlay toolbar and the accessibility statement. Then you'll also have access to things like analytics and so on. So the only limitation here is that if you are a free user, you wouldn't have access to this analytics, and you can see the visits per month. You only have 10,000 visits per month. So if you are a website that has lots of traffic, then you'd have to upgrade to one of the pro versions to get more visits per month. But if you're in the free version, you only get 10,000 visits per month. So yeah. So now let's go ahead and start testing it out. So now that I've shown it on desktop, it shows us this icon at the bottom left. You can choose where you want it to be on. If you go over to design, you can actually choose, okay, you want it to be top, you want it to be middle. If it's the middle, if I save it, come back, refresh the page, it will now be at the middle. If you want it at the right, anywhere you want it to be, you can choose that position, both on the desktop and on the mobile. They are independent. Desktop and mobile are independent, so you can choose different positions for different browser, like if you're mobile or desktop responsive mode. Okay, so yeah, here we have the links. If I click on it, it now links me to the different options. So I have bigger text. If I click on bigger text, it basically increases all of the text. Click on it again, increases it more, everything increases together. So now this is 2x. If I go back, it returns, interesting. Okay, yeah, it returns back to the regular size. Same thing with the line height. You can increase the line height. So these are actually good features, but like I said, the argument is that if I am visiting your site, then there is a high possibility I already have all of these features in my browser somewhere, which was even shown in this overlay fact sheet. I believe that's what it's called. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Let's paste it in the comments as well. So the overlay fact sheet, it also, there were some people talking about it there as well, that someone said, oh, there are a lot of like cases where these are the comments by a lot of people. If you go, you can go ahead and read the comments by a lot of people. Many of them are people who are living with disabilities, coming to tell you their own statements of like, what's the point of all of these overlay toolbars? They don't really see the point, because many people, if I need to use let's say I can only see, I need to magnify my screen. Most times I already have something like zoom text or some like features on my browser or on my operating system that allows me to zoom everywhere I want. So there's a very little possibility that I will actually use your own toolbar because most people already have their own settings, either from their browser settings, from their toolbar settings in their system, the operating system, or anything. They already have something. Same thing with that premium feature that they talk about, the screen reader feature. I don't see. Let me switch back and show you what I mean. There was this capability called screen reader. There is a 99% chance that if I need a screen reader, I will already have it installed somewhere. If I'm using an Android, by default, we have the talkback for Android. If you're on iOS, they have the voiceover for iOS. If you're a Windows user, you have narrator, which comes by default with Windows. If you want to get it more professional, then you can get either NVDA, which is the open source free version, or you get, no, is it open source? I'm not sure, but the free version is NVDA. If you want something for your workplace, then you have JAWS. That one is a bit more user friendly. It tends to like correct some errors automatically, so you can use that JAWS or use NVDA. If you are on a Mac, you can use the voiceover for Mac. So the screen reader feature, I don't really see the point of that at all. But well, we'll see how it goes. But there are lots of useful features here. The sitemap helps you to generate sitemap. Then some other nice features. So I understand that these features are useful. A few times you may want to use them because it gives you a handy tool on the website to be able to use them easily. But here is one flaw that I'll show you now. This is from their own Elementor website. I noticed it yesterday when I didn't even know that the problem was there. So now you see on this page, let me now click on their toolbar and I'll click on the contrast mode. So dark contrast, or let me even just say high contrast, any of them. I click on that. So now you can see our birthday treats. So this was what threw me off yesterday. I didn't even realize it. Now let's go ahead and close it. And what happens to the website? So now the pop-up is closed, but the entire website is black. The only thing I can see that makes me know that I'm still on the website and it's working is the up to 75% off on the website, which goes to show that a lot of times these overlay toolbars, they only work in specific cases. The moment something changes that is not, like, it's not part of what it was envisioned, everything breaks basically. So right now, the whole screen was just black. It was later, I now realized, because when I was on my mobile, the icon did not even show up, but at least on the desktop, the icon is still showing up. So that's when I now realized that, oh wait, I had left the icon on when I was testing it out. So I had to now disable that feature, and then everything showed up. But then if you now go back and re-enable it, black, disable it, everything shows up until I have to make sure that pop-up doesn't show up. So let me refresh the page. I have to make sure that the pop-up is closed, I think, before I turn on that high contrast mode. Oh no, it's still not working. But that was what was, see, it's still having the problem, because the problem is that the high contrast mode is running with the pop-up. So it is applying the high contrast to the pop-up, but then making the entire background black. So it is removing the entire background, whereas the pop-up is showing up. So you see, lots of problems. Like, that is why, like I said, with all these toolbars, I still don't see the purpose. The other thing that I noticed, which was thanks to Jen Harris, she mentioned that a lot of times we always have this feature called pause animation. But 99, let me not say 99, let's say 10% of the time, it doesn't actually do what you expect it to do. So you can see on this website, we have this animation of this video playing. If I refresh the page, you also have this animated counter that counts up. So now, ideally, you expect that if I say pause animations, it means that I don't want any animation. Let me show you an example. Something like apple.com. If I go to their Mac section, or let's say something like the Mac, you see, they have the same thing like Elementor does. They have this feature that is playing, basically auto playing. But the moment I go to my settings, and okay, it's not going to show up, but basically I'll go to accessibility. Let's see if I can't show it, sorry. Accessibility, and I choose what's it called? Reduced motion. It's called animation somewhere. Where is it? Let me just search for it. Animation effects. If you're on Windows, it's called animation effects. On Mac, I think it's called animations or something like that. And I just choose to say that I don't want any animations. So I've turned off animations now on my browser or on my Windows settings. If I now refresh the page, you can see automatically it pauses. So it is respecting my pause animation. You can see if you go through the entire website, nothing is animating on the entire website. Everything just stop. Even the everything, it works, but you have to click it yourself. Everything now becomes manual clicking. You don't get any automatic playing animation. Now with the toolbar, if I go ahead and click on it and I choose pause animation, it's chosen. Let's go ahead and now refresh the page and see if that will do anything. See, it is still animating the counter. The what's it called? This video is still playing, although you can have a pause button there, which you can pause, but the video is still playing automatically, which is not supposed to be. Everything is supposed to pause when you have a feature on your website that says pause animation. If you didn't have that feature on your website that says pause animation, then we can understand when the animations don't pause. But if you create a button that specifically says pause animation, it means that now you have now taken that responsibility and say that I admit that I have made all necessary all necessary plans to pause animations for you. If that button was not there, then I could argue that, oh, sorry, I didn't know that you wanted animations to be paused, so that's why I didn't create that feature. But now I've put a button on my website that specifically clearly says pause animation. So that means I've now told you that I am aware that you need your animations to be paused, and I've provided a button for you to pause the animation. But unfortunately, the button is not doing what it says it does. The button actually works, but only for specific types of animation, CSS-based animations. It doesn't work for videos that are playing. It doesn't work for JavaScript-based animations and things like that. It only works for CSS-based animations, which is just few. And I would argue that you should just only add for most of those animations, the easiest thing is to just add that prefers reduce motion and then pause the animation, basically, rather than having to put a button. Because the moment you put a button, same thing with like the light mode, dark mode button. The moment you put that button, you have now told the user that I am now taking the responsibility to give you this light mode, dark mode. That means I'm going to make sure that all of my colors are right for light mode, dark mode. If that feature wasn't there, let's say I didn't put a button that shows light mode, dark mode, then I can tell you that, okay, it is based on preference. If I want to put it, I put it. If I don't want to put it, I don't put it. But the moment I now go ahead and put a button, a clear, visible button that says light mode, dark mode, it means that I've now told you that I'm taking the responsibility and I'm going to make sure that your website is having, that you can get the experience using either light mode or dark mode. So just be careful, which is why even from the Elementor website, they made that admission. Let's see if I can find it. The early A11 Elementor early web accessibility. If you check, I believe one of their, let me go through the button. Okay, best accessibility plugins. Let me make sure I put back my animation effects. Okay, so this pop-up just keeps coming up. And now I can't even close it. Interesting. I can't close the pop-up. Interesting. Let me zoom out and see if that's the problem. Nope. The pop-up is stuck. Ugh, you see? That's why I hate pop-ups. Sometimes they just do whatever they want. Anyway, let's keep going. So here they wrote it by themselves. It is clearly written there. They said, let me zoom in, a word of warning regarding overlay widgets. In 2023, over 4,500 website accessibility lawsuits were filed in the US, and notably, 20% of the defendants had an overlay toolbar implemented on their websites at the time of the lawsuit. So what that just goes to tell you is that basically the moment you put an overlay toolbar, you are simply telling users that you have made all necessary precautions for your website that it must be accessible. So that's why the moment you put that toolbar, it's like you're putting a stamp that says, attack me, attack me. That's basically what you're saying. You're telling the whole world that here I am open for criticism, come and attack me. That's just the simple question, yeah. So that's why I would say, if possible, just avoid using the overlay toolbar. If you want to use it, just make sure you test it on your website properly. Do like multiple tests every time on your website to make sure that the toolbar is doing what it says it's doing. But yeah, that's beside the point. But let me now show you some of the nice features of the toolbar. I know I've ranted and I've said some negative things, but now let's go to the positive. So let's switch back and show you the positives. So yeah, for the positives, one nice feature that they've added to the toolbar, which is what I'm going to do now, I'm going to disable that toolbar. Let's go back to where it was. It was under, I think, design. So I'll say hide on desktop and hide on mobile. Let's go ahead and save changes. Then what I'll do now is I'll go over to my header template. So site header. Yeah, Kasim. Yeah, I'm going to check out your website after this stream. We'll be going off soon. So then after that, I will check your website and see what you sent to me. But yeah, you notice that I put this new widget here, this accessibility helper, in the header, because Elementor have now given us a new feature. If you come over to any of your link settings, so here's a link. If you go over to, let me close it, your dynamic tags, you now see a new option under site that says Ali widget toggler. Oh, sorry, trigger. Ali widget trigger. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Just trigger the Ali widget. So now if I publish it and preview it on the front end, so now it is saving me one problem, which is that toolbar at the bottom, it had so many issues that it was not accessible. To be fair, it had some accessibility issues, but now because you have control over where your button should be, now you can now come to now you see with the tab focus. If I press the tab key now, tab, you can see I get access to my toolbar, accessibility toolbar. If I press the enter key, it should have worked. What happened now? Interesting. It didn't work. It was working this morning, so I think something just broke. Let me click on it. Okay. So you see, you can click on it. So let me press the space. Oh, but that's where the problem happens. That although the button is there, I need to use an actual button, not the A tag, because otherwise spacebar does not do what it says it should do. Usually the spacebar for a button, spacebar key should trigger the button. For example, you see this view as, if I press the tab key, press the spacebar, oh no, even that doesn't work. Interesting. All of this admin bar, toolbar is not working. Let's go to a website that actually does what it says it to do. Let's say something like, yes, so like this play button. If I go with my tab key, where am I? I'm on the plus. So if I, yes, so because it is a button that triggers a popover, this is what I said you should do. Make sure that you put a focus outline on the actual button, and I also like to choose another focus outline on what is going to be triggered. So if I press the spacebar now, it triggers the popover. If I press the enter key, it does the same thing, triggers the popover, because that's an action. It's creating an action. But unfortunately, if you try to put your own button, it doesn't have that same effect. Spacebar does not work. But let me press the enter key. That too doesn't work somehow. I don't. Oh, I was going to praise them, but I don't know. Something is still not working. Refresh the page again. So the feature is not working as I expect. Yeah, it's not working as I expect. It only works on keyboard, on mouse trigger. I think if I refresh the page, then I click the, let's see, delete all of that. Then I click on it, then it works. Yeah, so it only works on the first time on mouse click, but it doesn't talk. Oh, okay. So I will have to test it out properly before I do a video. I was going to praise them, but it seems I have to. It's still buggy. Then the other things that I noticed is that if you inspect it, there are a few problems with it. Because the stream is already going quite long, I would not show it today. I might show it on the weekend, just when we have time. But here we have a problem that I spoke about in one of my Facebook posts, is that one rule about ARIA is there are 5 rules that someone posted about ARIA. The first rule of ARIA is don't use ARIA if HTML semantics already exist. So, for example, if you can use a button, then don't use an A tag with a role equal to button. Just use a button. If the HTML already exists for that element, then use the HTML element. Don't try to modify another type of element to fit into the feature. Second one is don't change the native semantics unless it is necessary. So don't go ahead and put a button and say button with a role equal to heading. You have broken the Oh no, yeah, this is just my I just did a demo of my website. Let me show you let me send a link to the real website. It was basically from a video. If you look at the link, it's just a dummy website that I copied from. So let me see if I can find it. The video is called, let me see if I have the name written somewhere. I literally just used ChatGPT to extract the text content from a video, and that is where the video is. So basically, it's called The Impact of Bad ARIA on Web Accessibility. She didn't put her slides, so I couldn't just look at the slides. So all I did was I just took the video, the transcript of the video, I put it into ChatGPT to break it down into a blog post, and that's what I'm just using here. So the 5 rules of ARIA. The second rule says don't change the native semantics unless it is necessary. The third rule is that all interactive controls must be keyboard accessible. This is a must, not a may. It must be keyboard accessible. So if I can click on something with a mouse, I should be able to use a keyboard and press this enter key if it is a link that links me somewhere, or I'll press the spacebar key if it is something that does an action. So anything that does an action, the spacebar key should work. Anything that does a link to somewhere else, the enter key should work. That is how it is. So basically for things that do actions, you would make sure that both the enter key and the spacebar key work for those ones, but especially the spacebar key. For elements that link you somewhere, then use the enter key to trigger the link. So not only the mouse key, but the enter key of the keyboard. Then the fourth rule is that don't hide focusable elements. Don't start using any kind of trick like ARIA hidden equal to true, role equal to presentation, or any kind of trick to hide focusable elements because it will have unexpected results. What's going to happen is that the moment someone turns on a screen reader, they will still get access to that element, but because you've used aria hidden equal to true, what it will just tell them is clickable, blank. So it will tell them that they are on a clickable element, but the element no longer has a name because you have said that the name, role, and value of that element should be hidden. So this is what aria hidden means, is that what aria does is aria gives you every element a name, a role, and a value. For example, let's look at any element. Let's say this don't hide focusable elements. If I right click on it and inspect it and click on this accessibility tree, what you'd see here, or let me just use the accessibility tab on the side. What you see here, you see the computed properties. That is exactly what aria does. Aria just creates these computed properties. So it gives you a name, a role, and a value. So basically, this is the role, is a role of heading. The name is, this is the name, number 4, don't hide focusable elements. And then the value is everything that goes underneath it. For example, let's look for something like a link. So this account link, inspect it. I need something that has controls. So something, what has controls here? Is there any accordion here? Let me open an accordion pattern. So let's see an example of an accordion. Okay, so now for this element, if I right click on it and choose inspect, and I head over to the accessibility tab, you see it has the name, role. So the computed name is called personal information. The role is button, and then every other thing is the value. So these are the value. These are the property. Like the values are basically states, the properties, and anything that relates to that element. So now it's showing you, okay, invalid user entry, false, focusable, true. That means a focusable element. Is it currently focused? True. Expanded, false. So it is not expanded. It's false. But the moment I click on it, you see it changes. If I click on you can see now, expanded, true, focused, true, focusable, true. So these are the properties. But now watch what happens the moment I now come to this element and I say aria, let's add attributes, aria dash hidden equal to true. So let's go back and come back here. It should hide. Where is it? It should have hidden everything. So ideally, what happens is that, I don't know, it didn't pick up yet. But what should happen is the moment you put aria hidden equal to true, it basically overwrites every other aria information that you've added, and it removes everything here, all of these attributes. It just removes them from the accessibility tree. And so this aria true, let me use the tree and see. Okay, it didn't show it out well. But to the screen reader, that's what is going to happen. That the moment you put aria hidden equal to true, it strips out all of the information for the name, the role, and the value. They stop working. So it just becomes like a blank element. The element will still have its properties, which is the controls, like the focusable nature and all of the other nature of the element. The only thing is that those things will not be translated to the screen reader. The operation will be the same, but the meaning will change to a screen reader. So that's the thing. That's why you don't just go ahead and start dropping aria when you don't know what the aria is for. That's the whole idea. So now going back to the elements, we'll be going off in a few minutes, but going back to the elements, you can see what did the Elementor do? They took a div and a button. So now this is a div, with some buttons. They now basically said that now instead of being a div, it should be a list. Instead of this being a button, it's like saying, hey, here is a police police officer, but then you've now stripped him of his rank as a police officer, but you left him with his gun. So he still has a gun that can kill people, but you've removed his rank, so he's no longer a police officer, but he's still a police officer. Basically, he has the features of a police officer, but he's not a police officer. That's what you're doing here. They gave it a button with a role equal to list item. So they're saying this is a button, but yet it's not a button. So it acts like a button, but it's not a button, which is basically wrong. You're not supposed to do that. Do not change the features of this button to become a list item. That is a wrong thing, and you can see it in action if you use any testing tool like Ask DevTools. If I do a page scan, it should tell me there is an error now. To tell you where is it? So many issues. So one is the tab index. Elementor adds a tab index of 1 to their button, which is wrong. Then where is it? There is documents should not have more than one main landmark, but you can see, let's see, there are 2 main landmarks now. This is one main landmark, and where's the other one? So there are so many. Let's see, this one is the first main landmark. Let me go ahead and highlight it, because I zoomed in a little bit more than expected. Let me zoom out. So you can see main ID equal to content, and the second one is div role equal to main. So basically Elementor is creating 2 main. So there's a role equal to main on this widget, and then there's a role equal to main again on the main website. So that is basically like this whole widget is just using lots of accessibility soup. They say like an accessibility. You know how we said div soup before? Now in this case, Elementor is doing accessibility soup. They're just throwing in roles, values, and names that are not appropriate for the elements. If say they should not have more than one main landmark, they have 2 because of this overlay widget. They should not have more than one content info landmark, but we have 2 because Elementor is adding a header, main, and footer to the overlay widget, which is wrong. Then what else? Then there was the other problem of the. Let me open it in a new browser. I think that should Ctrl C, so that I don't see the admin bar, so I can see the exact errors that are coming up. Okay, so let's come. This is back to the website. Let me trigger it open. Doesn't work. Interesting. So let me go back and go back to the. So basically, for now, I would not recommend this toolbar. The toolbar just has a lot of div of accessibility, like all everything but the kitchen Sunday or something like that. That's what the Elementor are doing with the overlay toolbar. But overlay, no, Ali. So let's go. Let me activate that button so that it can show up. Capability, no, design, and let me show it up. And go back to that page, refresh. Okay, now the button is there. So if I open it up, right click, inspect it, and go to the Ask DevTools, scan. So you can see all of the issues that are related to this toolbar. Elements must only use supported ARIA attributes. Highlight it. Basically, what are you doing? They say that ensure the role supports the ARIA attributes. Now, you've started with a button, then you now give that button a role equal to list item, which is wrong. But then you still go ahead and put aria live, polite, and aria pressed. Aria pressed is only for buttons. So they are saying this is a list item, but I still want you to have properties of a button. You can't have a role that is different, but then properties for something else. Like the properties and the role and the name all have to work together, basically. So at the moment, it's not working together. Then you can see this is, I'm not even checking, I'm just using this Ask Dev Tools, and it's already popping out all of the issues with this thing. So the moment I even try to use a screen reader or anything to test it out, I'm sure to get issues, basically. Then you see, aria commands must have an accessible name. So what does that mean? Let's see, where's the command? Okay, no, that is for, what is that? Div. Okay, no, that's for something else. Okay, that's for the button that plays I think it has a name of play, but I didn't put it when I was testing. The name should be, so that I can ignore that one. Then let's highlight this. Okay, role should be appropriate for the element. A button cannot have a role equal to list item, so that's already another problem. Then banner landmark should not be contained in another landmark. What does that mean? It means, what is the banner landmark that I used? Header, Ali widget, header. So they've put the header is contained inside another landmark. What landmark is that? So basically that's just there are so many issues that relate to the plugin. So which means that you have just set yourself up for trouble. Because what happens is that now, as one of those people who come for lawsuits, the first thing they will do is the moment they see there's a toolbar on your page, they already know that there is a high possibility that toolbar itself will fail accessibility. So the first thing they will do is they will sue you, knowing fully well that the toolbar is going to have issues. So knowing that they will win the case because the toolbar is going to affect understanding. So basically you're just setting yourself up for failure by putting some of these toolbars, which is why for now, that's just personally, I would not really recommend using these toolbars. I recommend the other features that Elementor are going to bring out, like the accessibility statement that they've brought out already, like the other features, which are the testing features, as well as the features to tell you how to fix it. But putting this overlay toolbar on your website, no, it has so many issues that I can't even go into right now, that I hope maybe someone like Jen Harris or someone else will be able to like take it apart with somebody who uses a screen reader, or somebody with a few of the user testing to test it out and show some issues. The only issue I will just point out quickly before we now start talking about tabs and accordions and how people actually come up with the ideas for the accessibility of tabs and accordions and everything, the one feature I just want to point out now is how to understand visually what is going on. So let me show you what I mean. Let me switch back. So now you see this button, it says bigger text. So visually I can see that it is that when I click on it, it means I'm going to get a bigger text. So if I click on it, it shows me text size 1.25, and because I'm seeing these icons, I know that okay, the moment I click on it, I'm going to get something expanding. But now consider somebody who is not seeing this feature. He's just listening to it. Now I come to a button. First, let's refresh it. The button first tells me bigger text. Then I click on that button, and one issue that let me, before I continue, one issue that they're already using here, which is wrong, is that the button has 4 different states. It has the off state, it has the 5 different states. It has the 1.25x state, 1.5x state, 1.75x state, and the 2x state. So that is 5 different states. But then they are using what they wrote here, which is inspect. area pressed equal to false. If you have ever studied engineering, there's what they call a toggle switch. So a toggle switch is a button that when you press it, it goes in and then it sticks into in. If you press it again, then it's like toggles out. So that is a toggle switch. It has two states, on state or off state. I use that a lot when I was doing my electronics engineering project. So basically, the state of the button is just two states, on and off. But in this case, they have 5 states, but yet they used area pressed. Area pressed is only used when you have 2 states. For example, you have light mode, dark mode. So you use area pressed. When it is pressed, it is dark mode. When it is not pressed, it is light mode, and you name it accordingly. So you name it something like activate dark mode or something like that, or something that tells you that when you press the button, what is it going to do? It is going to activate the dark mode. So that's what you, so, and then once it's activated, if you press it again, then it now goes off. So that means it is deactivating the dark mode. So it's a 2-state feature. But using it on a 5-state feature is not correct. It's going to throw people off. No matter how well you use any other thing, that area pressed, it should only be used on a 2-state feature, not a 5-state feature. Then the semantics using that list markup is already having an issue. It's either you're going to use a ULLI and then inside the LI you put a button, not on the LI itself. You now turn that LI into a button. That is already breaking semantics and all of that. Then what else? The other things are that, okay, the grayscale, I think that one works well, but the contrast mode, see, when I turn on contrast mode, oh, it worked now. The last time I pressed the contrast, okay, maybe because I put darks. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It's just confusing. You're like, when I was testing this morning, when I put the contrast mode, all of my text went black. Now it's working, so it's not very, like, it's not so active. It's not like, you can't say that it is fully working. If you do the hide button, the hide images, I think those ones work. Yeah, so the hide images work. The page structure, I think that works as well. So it tells me that there are 2 H2s. Oh, I thought I changed it to a H1. But yeah, H2s. At least that, see, so that gives you something good. It tells you that there are 2 H2s. However, if I inspect it, again, I think, okay, so yeah, so this one did, so this is how it should be, you see? Okay, thank you, Jimmy, for joining in. I'll soon be jumping off as well. I just want to finish, just briefly talk about tabs and accordions and how the accessibility actually came into play. And yeah, so we have the ULLI button. So this is, okay, but this role equal to main, that is definitely not supposed to be there. You should not have more than 1 main in a website. It should only be 1 main. You can have 2 headers, you can have 2 footers. They're not ideal, but you can, as long as you give them names, but there should only be 1 main element. So basically this whole header, main, and footer, they should remove it. It should not even exist at all in the widget. It's not necessary in this widget. Then, but yeah, the ULLI works, okay. Then, what else? So at least that the page structure is working. Then, reading mask, it helps you to, if you want to just focus on 1 line at a time, it gives you this nice line option. I think it works well. Readable font just changes the font to one, I'm not sure what the font is. I think this is like Arial or something, but it's easier to read for some people. Text align just makes everything to be left aligned, center aligned, so everything will be left aligned or right aligned. So even if your text was center aligned before, it will just make everything to be left aligned to make it easier to read. So that is also a nice feature. Then outline focus helps you to add a focus outline to any element. So by default, if I remove that, sometimes there's no outline on some people's websites, but when I add that, it now makes sure that there's an outline on it. And highlight links just makes you know everything that can be clickable on the website. So there's a link on the image, there is an A tag here. So everywhere that has a link, it just highlights it for you to make it easy for you to see. So those are good features. The only thing is that the semantics that they're using for now is still not the right semantics. They need to work with an expert, somebody who is good with understanding the area and basically the name, role, and value of all of these things, and the person can now advise them on what is the best name, what is the best role, what is the best value to use. Not just throwing area live on elements that don't need area live, throwing a header, main, footer on things that don't need those, and all of that. Those are not needed. So yeah, that's it. That's all about the Ally plugin. I might do a video later once they've updated some of these issues that are not working. But for now, I think I'll just keep it to myself. Only on a live stream, I can say whatever I want on a live stream. On a video, I'll wait until they've perfected it before I do a video. So the other thing that I want to just show is, I'll just talk briefly about this, how these, what they call complex widgets, how are complex widgets, how they even come about. Basically, complex widgets are widgets that have a kind of complex parent-child or sibling relationship. So for example, if you have your form, you have something like the select field. The select field has a select, and then it has children inside it called options. So you have a select, and then you have multiple options. So they have that parent-child relationship, and they are complex because they are one package. They all go together as one package. Same thing with a tab. You have your list of tabs, and then you have your list of tab panels. So that is, the tabs and tab panels are like siblings, and they are all grouped together as a tabbed interface. So that is one complex component. You have things like your accordions, but the accordions are special because accordions, they're not really linked together. In an accordion, all you have is, you have a button, and then underneath the button, you have a section. So you have siblings of a button and a section. So the button triggers the section. So this is another type of complex widget where you have multiple things combined together to form one element. You can use the details and summary tag. So details and then summary. In that case, the summary is a child of the details, but they are linked as one widget. So the first thing that I learned recently from that video which I shared called The Impact of Bad Area is that for complex widgets, when it is a direct parent-child relationship, usually it is using the arrow keys to navigate between the parent-child, the children of the parent. But if it is a sibling related kind of like thing, such as your details and summary tag, where the details and summary, each of the details is a separate element and they are just siblings of different details, then you use the tab key. So let's see examples so that I'm not just speaking to myself. Let's see an example of, let me go for the tab pattern. So let's say any of them, manual tab. So as you can see, what happens is in a tab, what we have is we have a list of links at the top. Then we have a list of panels. So for the list of links, we use arrow keys to navigate them. So if I go to the tab, if I press the arrow key, you see the arrow key is navigating the list of links. But then when I want to now go from one sibling to the next sibling, I have to press the tab key. If I press the tab key now, you can see I get access to the link. Let me right click it, inspect it. And you can see how it is. If I go to the accessibility tree, you can see we have a tab list, which is a list of tabs. Inside that list of tabs, you have tabs. I noticed somebody was using AI recently, and the AI did one blunder. What it did was that it created a tab list, then it put the list of tabs and also put the tab panel into the tab list. That is wrong. The tab list and tab panel are two separate entities. They're not the same entity. They are two separate. They are siblings. They're not children. They are siblings. So the children of the tab list is the tabs. So we have a list of tabs, and then we have the tab interface, which is a sibling to it. So for that, usually we now use the arrow keys for the list of tabs, and then to get access into that, we use the tab key. Now it gets access to the sibling element. Same thing with an accordion. If you look at an accordion, so accordion pattern. So you see, for an accordion, if I inspect it, and then I go to the accessibility tree, what you notice is that all we don't have that parent-child relationship in this case. All we have is siblings. So basically we have the heading, and they are siblings. So in this case, because it's not the same type of complex relationship as your tabbed interface, in this case, all we do is we use tab keys to navigate. So if I press the tab key again, it just uses tab keys to navigate all of the elements. It's just because the elements are not really complex. They're just a simple single element. So use tab keys to navigate all of them. Then if you look at the select field, let's say select, or something like, what's it called, combo box pattern. This is like a select field that we use a lot in our in most page builders. Let's see an example. Let's see, is there an example here? No, this is okay. Yeah, examples. Select. Now, if I inspect it and I check the accessibility tree, you notice it is combo box. So what happens is that when I click it, then when I'm inside because they're like the list box. If I inspect it, let me show you what I mean. So we have, let me open it. How do I? Can't really inspect it. So, but basically, what happens is, you see, if it's not helping me, not showing me properly. Let me see if I can inspect. No, it's not allowing me to inspect it. But ideally, this list box is a box of list items. So for that, you also use the arrow keys to navigate them, because they have a parent list box item, and then the children are called list items within that list box. So those ones, or options, they are called options within the list box. So with that, you use the arrow keys to navigate. So they just come up with ideas for how to easily navigate elements. They come up with some standards that for complex elements, when it is a complex parent-child type of relationship, like list box, like your input type equal to checkbox, input type equal to radio button, things like that, where it is a complex single element, single entity, then the children use arrow keys to navigate them. Whereas when you're moving from that element to another element, you use the tab key and so on. But the accordion is different, because the accordion is not actually a parent element with details as multiple details. Each detailed element is separate. So we just use, and they follow well in the DOM order. So usually you just use tab keys to navigate between your details and summary elements. But that's a different one. But most of the other ones, usually when it's a like a compressed element that has multiple children, we tend to use arrow keys to navigate the children. Unless it is not a complex element like your navigation, it is actually using ULLI tags. So those are not complex elements. They're not focusable complex elements. They're just regular list items. So most times for like your navigation, your accordions and so on, for those ones you tend to use the tab key to just navigate, and that is how it works. But yeah, that is about it. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will try to answer your question. If you is after in the replay, you're watching it in the replay, you can leave your comments. I'll try to answer them. But basically, that is all I wanted to talk about today. I'll be doing a better video about Elementor version 3.30 later. For now, I will hold off on talking about the Ali plugin because I'm still noticing lots of issues. So once those issues are fixed, definitely I will do a video about it in detail. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.